Dun. Hello, my friend, and welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and I am Heather, and I am super excited that you are here. And I just want to let you know that you're going to hear some tips and some tricks, some ideas, all to help you live your happiest and healthiest life. It is called Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, then you can take better care of others. And my goal is to make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way. I am really happy that you're here. Your true self is waiting. So it is time to step up and thrive. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Back to Me podcast. I am, of course, Heather, and your host, and we are going to talk about some pretty awesome things because we always do. Let's be serious. And today I am talking with Jo Stone. I love the CEO and founder. It's like awesome. And the Balance Institute, this is a topic that I feel like we could speak about endlessly. I mean, helping people find balance is just one of those things that seems to have no end. Jo, welcome. Welcome. It's so nice to meet you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes. So the first thing that I'm always super curious about is how, like, it's almost like we weren't born going, I'm going to be the founder of this Balance Institute. Something has brought you to this place where you felt like you needed to create this thing. And what brought you to that? Like, where was your journey?
Yeah, as you said, this wasn't something that I ever expected I would be doing. And even I started the business 5 or 6 years ago now. Even then, this was almost an accidental nudge from the universe, as many of these businesses are. So I effectively became my first client. I was working in corporate. I became quite senior, quite young, and was juggling a very big job across Asia Pacific. So I had a regional role in a listed company, and I had 2 young children at the same time. And I had done everything that I thought I should do to be successful. I was a chair on I was in a not-for-profit board. So I ticked all the markers of success by my early 30s and thought, right, I've arrived now. I should be happy because I have it all. I have a husband and 2 children, and there was something missing. And I couldn't work out what it was because on the surface, I should have been happy. And so I wasn't sure what to do about that. And so I blew up my life. I sold the house and thought, right, and then this whole series of dominoes fell. I often dreamed of, do we just sell everything and move to the country and have a simple life? Because maybe then I will be able to find whatever it is that I'm looking for. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I knew that I felt burnt out. And the words I kept using was, I just need better balance. I need to find a way to fit everything in and not feel so exhausted or not feel like I'm rushing from one thing to the other constantly, always feeling guilty and all these horrible, horrible emotions. So yeah, sold the house, moved, ended up leaving my job. My husband left his job. Relationship was on quite tenterhooks for a while, so almost lost the husband. Children don't go back, so they stuck with me. And
I've heard that.
yeah, that's a one-way ticket. And then essentially ended up going through this journey of putting my life back together in a way that made sense. So rather than building it from a place full of conditioning and all the things that everybody told me I should want, I went on a multi-year journey to identify what is actually mine. What have I inherited from my parents or from society or from my teachers or whatever? And and then by sheer accident ended up having lots of coffees one week with people, thinking that I was talking about work. And they just kept asking me, how have you done it? How are you sane? How are you functioning this way with everything that you're juggling? And I came home one day and said to my husband, I think there's something in this, that there might be an opportunity here. And I was consulting full time at the time and decided to start this on the side and see if it was the thing. And 5 years later and over 400 women through my signature coaching program, it's now a thing.
I'd say That's a thing for sure. And it's so interesting. We have very similar lives. I did the same thing, minus the kids. And my husband at the time, yeah, it didn't actually survive the whole transition. So I think that it's not unusual. I feel like it's not unusual for you hit a point where you're like, wait a minute, they said this would be great. And it's not. And, what do you do about it? And I mean, everybody will follow their own path to find it. Hopefully they don't stay where they are. Do you find that of all the women who've been going through your program, is there those big shifts, or do they find other ways to kind of fit all of that in, the things they want?
Yeah, I guess we tend to see two paths. We do get the people who come in not sure really who they are or what they want, and they get clarity that they actually want to leave their job, or they want to leave their marriage, or because instead of making the decision from a place of fear of I can't cope or there's something wrong with me, they actually then make it from this beautiful place of empowerment of I know who I am, I know what I'm worth, I know what I want. And they can then make those decisions without regret. They tend to be faster decisions. I'm not saying that a marriage is fast to dismantle, but more of a, I know in my bones that this is not for me anymore. So they make easier decisions, even though they're very difficult ones. Or there are other people who are on the verge of either blowing up their life or quitting their jobs or whatever they're about to do, because they don't think they can fit everything. And a big one is a lot of women are thinking of going part-time because there's no way that they can keep up the standard that they're expecting of all areas. And there's many who actually don't end up changing anything externally. They realize that they have a lot of the components are in place. They just needed to rediscover who they are and actually learn how to put themselves back in their lives instead of giving everything to everyone and living off fumes. And so
that's what we preach. That's the back to me premise. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, you have to give to yourself, or otherwise there's nothing left to give. My gosh. Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny. And I mean, my listeners have heard me talk about one of my signature talks is there's no such thing as work-life balance. And it's just semantics really to get people to look at things in a different way, because balance is well, I use that phrase because for me, balance is like a static place. Instead, I use harmonize. But it's the same concept. It's like the pieces of your life that you have, do you want to keep them, or are they not what you actually wanted and that you just forgot and you just did what somebody told you to do? And it is interesting when you talked to people about when you blow up your life, because I blew up my life. I sold my house, I got divorced, and I quit my job. And I went to India for 3 months to get like, I got to get out of here. Instead of running off to the country, I just went off to a different country. Yeah, country. Oh my goodness, look at that. Countryside. It's kind of the same. So when people do blow up their lives, there's like when I did it, 20 years ago, coaching wasn't a thing. Coaching was I remember the first life coach I met, I'm like, is that a job? And then here I am doing it. So, but it's interesting, like navigating your way through those things without help. You have some challenges, right? I mean, I can look back on it now and make jokes about it and kind of laugh and say it was amazing. And it was amazing, but it wasn't an easy thing to do. So did you find that you had things along the way that helped you? I guess you had your husband, but like what did you find helped you kind of get that clarity, like the tools that you, I guess, are now teaching for people? What do you think were some of the keys that helped you through that?
It wasn't, I guess, to answer your question, a lot of this wasn't easy. And I remember the night before I sold what I thought was my forever house. We built it from scratch. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of. We sold it after 18 months. And that was never part of the plan.
I'm
And I sat
kidding.
there on this beautiful September evening with all the doors open, looking at my beautiful water feature that I'd spent thousands of hours on Pinterest trying to get the perfect fountain for, and with all these 350 plants that I planted every single one, and just sitting there looking and thinking, am I really giving this up? Am I really about to do this? And I had people doing interventions because we didn't have anything else to buy, because I didn't know if we were going to sell and I didn't know what I wanted. So it was like, okay, this is the first domino to fall. And there was almost this ego death that night of I'm tapping out. I'm giving up the big house. And that was something that was always really important to me, was having a nice house.
Right.
I'm giving it up. Am I really prepared to do this? I don't know where I'm going to live. I know that it's going to be not as nice. It's going to be smaller. It's not going to be as modern. It's not going to have a pool probably, and it might not have a $3,000 water feature and all of these things. So that was really tricky to step into that. But it's almost like there was something deep inside of me that was saying, just keep going one step. And it was only after doing one step would the next step reveal itself. And as somebody who loved being organized and used to run events for a living and had all kinds of beautiful Gantt charts, the thought of stepping into this process without knowing how it was going to unfold, when it was going to unfold, was some parts nerve-wracking on a deep soul level, but there was also something quite exhilarating about the freedom that I was stepping into. And I worked out throughout this whole process that freedom is a very, very important value of mine. If I don't feel free, like I have choice, then I feel incredibly suffocated. So even though I had the house and I had the job and I had all those things, I felt trapped in all of them because I had to keep the job, because I had a huge mortgage. And so it just went round and round. But what I used to guide me was almost being open to things that came across my path. And really my main guide was my curiosity. I'm an insanely curious person who asks lots of questions, much to my children's dismay, anytime we go anywhere. And so it was like, okay, what's going on inside of me? I started coming across different people like Joe Dispenza and some of the, Tony Robbins, and like, oh, okay, this is interesting, going to, the free workshops and seminars and reading a lot of books. And that took me down a very, very deep rabbit hole for many, many years, as I took my skill really from corporate was to take something apart that was very complicated and put it back together again in a way that was simple and made sense. And so I essentially took myself apart and then put it back together in a way that made sense. But as I pulled each thing apart, I'm like, oh, what's this thing? And there's this thing called mindset. And what is my mindset? And what's my conditioning? And what's conditioning other than the thing that you put in your hair? And okay. And so I just, dove in and was almost, my curiosity was my guide. And then I found various coaches along the way, and I got varying levels of support along the whole journey. And I still to this day do a whole different range of modalities depending on what I feel at the moment I need, because I feel that every coach needs a coach.
Oh, definitely.
I have to continue to work on myself if I'm asking other people to work on themselves.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like a gym membership, or, it's not you go to the gym once and you're good. You have to keep doing it. And I was just writing my newsletter on physical wellness, so it's top of mind, but it's true. And decisions that we make at one point in our lives don't always carry through to be something that needs to be forever. Your forever house is not really forever. It's just a right now house. And I mean, good on you that you could walk away from that water feature, because I don't know if I could have. That would have been hard.
It was beautiful. It was everything I dreamed of.
My house that I sold had a pond in the backyard that the ducks would come and visit. I was like, oh, okay, I can get another pond somewhere else. But we do end up with this idea of, and I like that you say, what is conditioning? Because we do, unless you stop to look at it, you don't even realize the decisions you're making are almost like not really yours. They've just some inherited idea of how things should be. And it does, I think, take curiosity to really, without judgment, look at where you are and figure out what's going on for you.
Mhm.
And having an impartial person help you with that is great. And you mentioned intervention. Was that like your friends were trying to stop you from doing something crazy?
Yeah, so I had my parents pull me over and say, "Are you really sure you want to do this? That you've wanted this house forever. Are you really prepared to sell it? Where are you going to live? You have 2 kids. That's so irresponsible to be selling a house and have nowhere to go. You're going to be homeless. What are you going to do?" There was a whole lot of uncertainty that we were stepping into that made everybody around us feel very uncomfortable. I think because we were in selling the house, we were making a declaration, subconscious and energetic, that we were tapping out of the race.
Mm-hmm.
And that made a lot of people very uncomfortable because they were very much on that treadmill and they were working really hard. And the thought of somebody like me who was the high achiever, like if there's a mountain to climb, I'm going to climb it as fast as I can and as well as I can. And I got to the top of the mountain and went, oh, hang on, this isn't the mountain I want to be climbing. This is somebody else's mountain. But I could have sworn, until I got to the top that it was mine. I was adamant that this is what I want. I promise these are my desires. These are my, but it was only when I got to the top and realized, oh, okay, the fact that it feels empty and the fact that I actually don't feel like I've arrived is an indicator that perhaps this isn't mine. But I had to get there first. Otherwise,
Right.
I would never have had the strength to question everything, because I would have always assumed that happiness was at the top of whatever list I had decided was success.
Right. And I think some people just keep going up mountains and not recognizing when they get to the top. Because for some people, there is no top, right? It's like they just keep climbing. And it's it's the carrot that's always dangling. No, it's not this one. It must be the next. And it is true until you get there and you go, hold on, this isn't fun at all.
No, it was meant to feel different to this. I meant to feel really good. I've arrived. I've got what I want. I've ticked all the boxes. So now I'm meant to be happy.
And it is hard to make change when the people around you, I mean, in your best, they feel like in your best interest are questioning you, because we are such communal creatures that, disrupting the flow of the way things are supposed to be, it's hard to sustain that kind of change, especially if it's your parents. Good for you. I mean, I had a friend who took me to lunch and was prepared to take me down to the mental health facility. They wanted to look me in the eye to make sure that I hadn't had some kind of mental breakdown. I said, no, I'm fine. I'm just quitting my job. What's the big deal? But as you said, it disrupts people's truth. And that is nobody wants to look at that, right?
No, and especially I've learned now since doing this work and starting this business that this path isn't for everybody, and that's okay. And people go at different speeds, and that's okay. And there are some people who I don't believe in this lifetime are ever meant to look in the mirror. They're meant to be on the treadmill and put their heads down and do their thing and whatever that is. So everybody has to have their time if it's going to be a time, and you can't force that upon anybody. No one can step into this without being.
People think it's like the magical unicorn thing. No, it's not a magical unicorn thing.
No.
And when I left, because I was in corporate finance, I was a CPA. I was an executive. I'm like, we need these people to do this stuff right now. It's just not me. Yes, all of you people who are here, you don't have to follow me. This is my parade. You stay. You stay there if that's, and some people love that stuff, and that's why they're here, which is beautiful. Some people are here to grow beautiful vegetables, and everybody's got their thing. But I think sometimes we it's a bit glamorous, seems a bit glamorous to, charge out on your own and do things, and helping people realize that maybe that's not for you. I think that's as powerful as helping people unhook themselves from what's not like that climb, right?
Yeah. And so, I mean, when everybody's ready or not, even getting clarity in, okay, this person isn't for me. And I intentionally, with all my marketing messages, am very clear on, this is who I work with and this is who I do not.
So what is your description of that, just for people who are listening to get an idea of what you identify as?
I work with ambitious women, very often working mums, who are feeling burnt out and are on a quest to define success on their own terms. Where they're looking for balance, but
Right.
It is the piece that not everybody who comes to me has children, but the underlying, I guess you would say, value of our community is that work is a really important part of who they are. And for a lot of women, they work because they have to. They don't work because they really, really want to. And so,
Right.
particularly when you become a mother, when you have this identity around work, there's a lot of judgment that comes with that. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt. And so helping women step into being the best version of themselves, which may involve putting kids into childcare and going to work if that's what they choose. It may be that they want to work 3 days a week if that's what they choose. So there's no push to have to work a certain way in my community. It's more about what is authentic to you and how do you work that out free of society and guilt and everything else that happens around that.
Right. And all of us, I feel like, came for some contribution, and work is a contribution and motherhood is a contribution. And sometimes they bang against each other. I always remember, I think it was like the 70s or 80s, that stupid song. And they've heard me bring it up before, and I still haven't looked it up. I go to work and make the bacon and come home, and women are supposed to be super women, to do everything. Perfect partnership, perfect mother, perfect corporate ladder climber. I'm like, that is not a sustainable life the way that it's been portrayed for a lot of people, right?
Yeah. And a lot of women buy into this, I want to have it all. And I say, well, you can, and the whole mantra often is, well, they said that we could have it all, but just not all at once. And I say they lied.
Yeah.
Because they defined your all, which was, as you said, a boss in the boardroom, a boss in the bedroom, 1950s housewife, the perfect daughter, the perfect friend, do everything for everyone. And that's not what most people want. They've got to work out what their all is. And that's what I'm very, very big on, is
normal.
You can have it all, but you have to decide what your all is. And then you can have that, because I guarantee you it's not what society has said is all.
And if you look at those ads from the 50s and you look at them with today's lens, most women are like, are you kidding me? So we've come a long way where you actually do get to decide what you want and create your life the way you like it. And is it a group program? Is it an ongoing program? Like, how does your program work?
Yeah, so I have a range of different programs when people come into my community. Many women choose to come into my signature group program. So that's across 12 weeks, and it's a blend of self-paced modules. There's weekly live Q&A calls, because connection and community is a really important part, I feel, of women doing this work. And they also get some one-on-one support to really delve into those areas and roadblocks. Right, and then I have ongoing programs after that with women who come into my community and stay for years and never leave, which I love.
I know. Well, like we said, the self-development doesn't end, right? It's just like when you start doing it, you're like, I'm just going to work on this one thing. And then it blows open and there's endless rabbit holes. I do the same thing. I'm like, oh, I just discovered something new. Now I have to learn all about that. And oh my gosh, sleep. But I'm very big on sleep, so I can't do it all, as you say. Excuse me. And so what is your website again?
So it's balanceinstitute.com is where people can find out more.
Easy.
Yep. Nice and easy.
Is it now your Q&A sessions, are those live? I love live Q&A sessions.
Yes, I do them live. There's something really valuable that happens when we get together, when we can respond to what's in the room, where we can feel the energy that's there. So I tend to do a lot of live work, whether it's even free live workshops to people who haven't joined my programs yet. I do calls to my graduates. To me, there's something so special about that live energy, and there's a reason that I have great attendance at all those calls.
Right. It
Yes,
is
of course,
true.
people are busy and they can watch the recording, but there's also something to be said for prioritizing yourself and learning to hold boundaries at a specific time, because we hold boundaries for everyone else and not for ourselves. So this is everything I do is very intentional. Everyone realizes they get to the end of my program and go, oh, every little thing that was in here had a purpose. I don't believe in fluff. I don't believe in just chucking things in to make yourself feel better. So I've gone to incredible efforts to strip out anything that they don't need and only give them what they do, which when women are busy and they're women who love knowing exactly what they're stepping into, it's literally, here's this module, here's your 3 key outcomes, because a lot of life coaches can be fluffy and a lot of life
definitely.
coaches can talk in circles. And
Like
because I
politicians.
spend so long in corporate, I'm very action oriented, and I'm like, okay, here's going to be your takeaways, and I'm quite structured. So people who have been in corporate like the way I talk about what are sometimes esoteric or fluffy topics, because they can relate to them, because they can understand the way I talk, because I was conditioned for so long in corporate.
Right. I can still write a really mean corporate letter, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Even though I've been teaching yoga now for 20 years.
Some skills never leave you.
Some skills never leave. But it's true, the live, it's so interesting because I've run the live group programs, and for people who couldn't make it, I've got the recordings, and you can see people don't watch the recordings. They're like, no, I wanted to be in the room with you. I'm like, oh my gosh. Then put it in your calendar, like you said, set yourself a date and honor the date with yourself as if you would honor it with, a friend. And I do that for a lot of things in my life, fitness, to-do list, schedule it and do it. That's, I mean, it sounds like a super powerful program for all of the recovering corporate executives.
There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of
Right?
women who are thinking of leaving, who are questioning, I can't do another 20 years of this, particularly those most women who come to me are in their late 30s, 40s, early 50s. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. Is this what my life is really going to be about? Because all I see is more of this in my future. It doesn't get any easier. And I've now got teenagers, and I always used to think, oh, when I've got little kids, I'm sleep deprived. And now you start to get teenagers and you realize, oh, it's a whole different level of parenting. I'm not wiping butts anymore, but I'm dealing with emotions.
It's a different kind of sleep deprivation.
It's different. So there's just always, just like personal development with parenting, there's always a new layer. There's always a new level, and it's different, but it doesn't get easier. So this expectation that life can get simpler is really challenging unless you're intentionally cultivating a life where you build in that simplicity, which is harder than it sounds in today's world.
It is. I always say it's easy. It's simple, but it's not easy,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The idea behind it, the premise behind it, you're like, yeah, totally. And then you go look at how to untangle what has been developed over however many years. You're like, how do I untangle all these knots? And but once, as you said, like freedom, I think a lot of people who jump from the corporate life have that freedom mentality, and guarding your time, because you don't get to put time in the bank and cash it out later. So I'm always very conscious of, where do I spend the currency of my time? And I think that's a super powerful lesson for people too.
I believe that we pay with things 2 ways, either with time or money. And most women can work it out themselves, but they come to me and pay me money to save time. They don't want to spend 5 years working it out themselves if they can pay me money and sort it out in 12 weeks, because
Exactly.
time is our greatest cost, right? Whether that's time with our kids or time with our health or time with our partners or time with ourselves. As you said, we don't get that back.
Yeah.
You can always make more money.
Yeah. True. So thank you so much. I feel like, being a former corporate person, I probably would go, yeah, I love the way you've structured your program. I'm like, this makes complete sense to me. I'm totally down with that. And they can find you at balanceinstitute.com. And they
Correct.
should check out your podcast too, Balance and Beyond.
Yes,
Is
where I
that
talk about
on
all of these things.
all
It's
of
on
these
Spotify
things?
and iTunes and all the places.
All those places. Beautiful. So I will put links for all of that, friends, in the show notes. Don't worry. And if you do feel like this is, is this all there is to life? If you're asking yourself, is this all there is to life? You got to go and check it out and be curious and figure that out. Joe, before we go, the guest always gets the final words of wisdom. Do you have a thought to drop for our friends?
I would probably reiterate what I said earlier, and probably aligns with a lot of your philosophies. And that is that when you define what your all is, and you ultimately get to define who you are and how you show up in the world, then you can build a life that brings you joy and fulfillment and happiness. There's usually just some work we have to do to get there, but it's work that you will never regret.
Amazing. Yes. You will never regret working on yourself. I'll put my personal guarantee on that. Thank you so much, Joe, for this conversation. It's super fabulous. And I know that you are creating a lot of change. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for what you do too. We need more women in the world stepping into this space.
Yeah, absolutely. Friends in podcast land, you've got a friend who needs to hear this podcast. I know it. So send them over the podcast to have a listen. Give us a little comment if you have something to share with us. And of course, like us. Take care, my friends. I will see you next time. Hello, my friend. I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you found it useful and you're like me and you want to help others, please share this, comment, like, subscribe, all of those things that will help this podcast to be found by more people. And if you found it useful, there's a chance that someone else will find it useful as well. If you ever have any questions, I am here to answer your questions. I would love to help you. My direct email address is info@heatherstewart.coach. You can also find me at heatherstewart.coach. And if you go over to my website, you will find copies of the podcast. You'll find the link to my Instagram and my Facebook. And I do have a personal request because I do want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. So if you could give me a review, and my friend, I would love if you gave me a good one. If you could share this, if you could send it out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope that you have an amazing day. I hope that you are finding your way back to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend. Be well, and we will see you again next time.